first, we go to our good friend Buzz Jacobs. He is the co-director of Benghazi 9/11. That's Benghazi9-11.com if you're looking for it. It will be posted after the show. And Buzz, welcome back. Great to be with you.
Hey, Crane. It's great to be with you as well. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Let's begin with last week, the coverage of Hillary Clinton's new book. Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, was Secretary of State at the time of the Benghazi attack and murders of 4 Americans, including our ambassador. We have a news report about a book, her book, best-selling book, and here it is. Roll it.
She says, I will not be a part of a political slugfest on the backs of dead Americans. It's just plain wrong, and it's unworthy of our great country. Those who insist on politicizing the tragedy will have to do so without me. And then she goes on to say about her critics, Chuck, many of these same people are a broken record about unanswered questions, but there is a difference between unanswered questions and unlistened to answers. If there was any doubt, Hillary Clinton's clearly ready to go on offense on this.
There's no doubt at all. In fact, there's a concerted campaign effort.
The former Secretary of State strikes a defiant tone about the attack and all the investigations into it, the attack that led to the deaths of 4 Americans in 2012, including the U.S. ambassador to Libya. She says in that chapter that those who exploit this tragedy over and over as a political tool minimize the sacrifice of those who served our country.
Now, Buzz, I know that you responded last week about this, but what gets me, and I want to move to Bergdahl in a second, but this is part of the accountability that we're looking for. What do you make of the reports from NBC and CBS, respectively, about a book where she's coming out and being portrayed as going on the offense, in light of the fact that she hasn't answered all the questions regarding what took place in Benghazi?
It just makes my blood boil, Crane. When I listened to that report, when I first read the article that you're referring to, where where her statements were announced to the world, it just makes me angry because she's basically lecturing you and me and every other American who cares about the truth on Benghazi. And she's sitting there in her ivory tower, just like she did on the Senate committee, and basically saying, what difference does it make? Who cares? She's moving on. She's moved on months ago. Barack Obama moved on. The mainstream media moved on. That's basically her statement. Look, you people, you plebes out there can argue about the facts about Benghazi, but I've made my statement, and I am Hillary Clinton, and you shall bow to me because I'm going to be the first woman president of the United States, and you can't stand in my way, and Benghazi is never going to stand in my way, and who cares about the truth? Who cares about accountability? You know, let's remember, there's still no one has been held accountable for Benghazi after all this time. Not one person has been fired. Not one person has been arrested. Not one person has been captured by our special operations forces. And you have Hillary Clinton just dismisses it. They have dismissed Benghazi from day one. It's such a vulnerability to them. They're so worried about it that, you know, you read about it, they're organizing right now to go on the offensive. And that's just not Hillary Clinton, but it's the liberal left, and they're going to attack us. They're going to attack Trey Gowdy. They're going to attack you. They're going to attack anybody who wants the truth on Benghazi, you know, because we're all a bunch of right-wing crazy fanatics, as they would say.
And that's the way to attempt to marginalize and attempt to pretty much what we've seen in the administration as a theme. Anytime they were brought up of criticism involving them not telling the truth, what they did was, oh, and some people think I wasn't born here, and turned everybody into a birther. Now, however one wants to think about that movement, I mean, I'm not a birther myself. I understand the legal arguments that people were making, but understand part of the strategy, I believe, from the administration was to keep that around, so they can use that to tag anybody who was bringing up a concern about their behavior. In light of this, of what we are seeing, and that's what you pointed to, the idea of, oh, this is just some right-wing non-scandal. And you get Blondie Tingles himself on MSNBC, and he'll say it over and over again, and that will start making its way into the mainstream media. But what you just detailed there, Buzz, was the fact that we have the mainstream media picking up on how she's going on the offense. Talk to people quickly about the idea of, hey, accountability review board, we have one, 25,000 pages worth of documents. I think it's important to recap these types of excuses because we've seen this game plan before, as you've astutely pointed out. Go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You're right, Crane. What they're doing is putting out a narrative that will then be injected into the culture of America through the mainstream media, through repetition. They are going to repeat the same things over and over and over and over again, the things you just mentioned, and more. And they'll start to undermine members of the select committee. For example, Reuters just did an article on Trey Gowdy, and they said that he was known for, quote-unquote, courtroom theatrics. That's the headline. Trey Gowdy's the Republican leader of Benghazi is known for courtroom theatrics, something along those lines, courtroom theatrics being the key word. And so you read the article. Do you think there was anything in there that described courtroom theatrics? The answer is no, not even close. In fact, what they did in that article, here's what they blamed, what they said bad about Trey Gowdy. He was a Christian conservative. Oh, my goodness, that's terrible. He has a reputation for tenacity. That's just plain awful. How could we ever have anybody lead an investigative committee who's tenacious? He had a willingness to tug on George's heartstrings. And here's one, of course, you and your listeners will really find very offensive. He brought a Bible to the courtroom one time in South Carolina. I just can't even believe that anybody would possibly do that. So they use these things, and they're saying he's a right-wing nut. And that's what they're describing you and me and every other person out there who are good, God-fearing people who just want the truth. And that's where we are. So we got to stand up for it. And that's why I started a group called the Benghazi Truth PAC, and we got to work within the laws of the United States, and we're going to help defend these folks. It's BenghaziTruthPAC.com if anybody wants to join our effort. But we've got to fight back in these efforts because it's very important. We got to stand up for the truth, and unfortunately, it takes resources and energy to fight back. And when they have the mainstream media and an unlimited bandwidth to reach the American people, the only way that we're going to fight back is by getting the truth out there and delivering our story, because the mainstream media is never going to do it, and you're doing it, and our movie project's an effort to do that, and there's a lot of other people who are trying, but there's still a lot of people out there. I just challenge everybody. Go to your neighbor and say, what do you know about Benghazi? Unfortunately, I think you're going to get a response. If people aren't really politically inclined and in tune, they're not going to know a whole lot, and that's because the mainstream media really hasn't been covering it that well. But people like you and your listeners are educated. So, sorry, I don't mean to go on.
Not at all. No. But this is a part of this is an education into the strategic communications of how the mainstream media works, how they start to put in the theatrics was going back. It ties into a theme that has been repeated time and time again about they want a drama. They want to make this into a sideshow, and bottom line, it's all part of something that they're trying to do to never answer the substantive questions. If there's 25,000 pages of documents, why did it take Judicial Watch to get that one document that was so heavily redacted in an original form that outed the White House direct connection to the talking points of Susan Rice? And so what we're doing right now, Buzz, is we're just taking it apart. People can make their own decision. I only invite them to look at the truth. Buffet, take it or leave it, I oftentimes say. But you should have the option to look at it and see it for what it is. And what you're going to see, as you identified from day one when it came to Benghazi and specifically to Trey Gowdy, was the targeting of him, turning him into Ken Starr. That is their goal. That's the end game. And it started with Reuters. We're going to see more of this looking that way. Let's go to National Security Advisor Susan Rice. Asked about this in a Candy Crawley interview that surprisingly Candy Crawley had an outbreak of journalism. Here it is. It's in the tail end of the interview after a whole host of other questions, which we'll address a little later, regarding Bo Bergdahl's release. And we will go now to that question about Benghazi. Roll it.
Were you ever angry that you were not given full information, or that someone didn't check back? Did you ever feel like you were put out there with bad information?
Candy, no, we've been through all of this, and I've had the opportunity to discuss this at great length. The fact of the matter is I'm now serving as the President's National Security Advisor. I have all of the issues that you can imagine that are on the world stage on our plate. My primary responsibility and sole interest in that of the President is ensuring that Americans around the world who are serving in dangerous places are safe. Right. And we have embassies, we have diplomats, we have servicemen and women, as we've just been discussing, who are doing the business of the United States at great risk. And my hope is that Congress will focus on how we can ensure that we have the resources and ability to keep them safe going forward. I'm not going to speculate on something that hasn't happened or what Congress might do or not do. I'm focused every day, Candy, on doing my job on behalf of the American people and trying to keep our people safe.
It seems to me that when Candy Crawley presents that question, it's a very sympathetic. I listened to it earlier, and it was interesting to me the way it's presented, as almost as if she's the victim of not getting all the right information. Tell me, Buzz, what jumps out at you in that exchange?
I think what jumps out at me, well, number one, you nailed it, Crane. It was the way the question was asked was basically, hey, Susan Rice, we know this isn't your fault, that you went out and lied to the American people on 5 Sunday talk shows, that you helped mislead the American people for the better part of 2 weeks. You know, we know that's really not your fault because we got to blame the intelligence community who didn't give you the talking points, even though Mike Morrell, the former director of the CIA, testified that the intelligence community didn't supply that information to you about the video. But nevertheless, we know the truth now. And the only way to get the truth is through a coherent investigation that Trey Gowdy is going to lead and the Select Committee is going to support. And I've been saying that from day one, and a whole bunch of other folks have been saying that from day one. And we've got to let that investigation happen. But you know, let's not be fooled for 1 minute. Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton, Susan Rice, Barack Obama, their whole White House team are just going to fight this tooth and nail. They're going to be dismissive of it. They're going to say the Accountability Review Board has already done the work of the committee. All the Congress's questions have been answered, et cetera, and they're going to fight it just like they have. So it's going to be a real effort because the reality is Benghazi. The truth about Benghazi has become more than just about Benghazi now. It's about really a battle for the heart and soul of America because this, in my opinion, is one issue that can really impact Hillary Clinton's presidential ambitions, and they're very scared of that. They know that because if the American society, if our society can absorb the complexity of this issue and really absorb the facts, they look terrible. And you're right, Crane. Let the truth be told. Let the facts lie where they may. I believe if the facts are laid out, the American people will judge Hillary Clinton harshly. You know, if they're not afraid of that, then they should just let the facts come out and let the voters make a decision.
Judge them on their true record. That's what's at hand, and we do it any way we can get the truth out there. But we want people to be informed and make that decision. Buzz Jacobs, thank you. Great to be with you. Coming up, Jim Hoft, the Gateway Pundit. Next, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk.